Good morning, Paul. It's Jamie from Pullman Volkswagen in Durham. Hope you're well this morning. Just a quick video, just a quick update. Darren is setting off now. As you can see, all loaded up on our transporter. All good to go.
Yes, I bought a Volkswagen E-Up, my first EV. Now EVs can be quite an emotional subject for some people, so I'd ask you please keep the safety lock on your keyboard and let me explain. I won't be pushing the green agenda. I'm not going to be pushing the EV agenda. The car's perfect for me. I'll explain why. As we get through this video, I'll give you more and more detail about why I got it, what it cost, what I think of it, and so on. But for any of this, you don't have to take my word for it, because I've got with me today one of the country's foremost experts on the Volkswagen Up. Please join me. So this young lady has travelled thousands of miles in her mother's Up. It's a 1 litre petrol. It's 9 years old. And how many doors has it got?
3.
3 doors. So 2 at the front, and then it's got the boot. So is it nice? Do you like it? Your mum's car?
I do like the colour of it.
Yes.
And
You're a bit tongue-tied, aren't you? Because usually this girl is chatter, 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 but now she needs to do something a bit more serious on camera. You've gone all quiet, haven't you? So I think the best thing is, shall we just go for a ride in the car?
Yeah.
And then we can have a chat then as we're going along. And you can tell me anything sensible you can tell me. All right then? So let's get the cameras set up in the car. Now, it's been raining today. It's quite cloudy and dull, but we've got to go with what we've got. So, see you in a moment. So we're just travelling through the back of Haxby, aren't we?
yes.
And I can see that my camera, which is behind, is now tilting over at an angle. But this is the first time I've tried to video anything in a car. But I might be able to straighten it in the editor. So here we are, we're doing 30 miles an hour. Now watch.
Oh.
Now we're doing 50 miles an hour. So it's ever so quick. It does about 11 seconds to 60. So once it gets to about 45, it starts to slow down acceleration. But
So are you basically saying that we're in the car and then every time you go in it, it's like boom?
it is a bit like that. You have to be quite careful. Oh, lane assist has come on. So it's got lane assist and it's just stopped me steering into the gutter, which is a bit weird. But that's a modern feature in a lot of cars. I just haven't had it in one of mine before. So this is, what's this called? Is it Crossmoor Lane? I forget what it's called now. Off we go. So that's 60 miles an hour. So it doesn't
Are you
shift.
even allowed to do this?
So on journeys so far, apart from just now, because I'm giving it the beans, it'll generally do about 4 miles per kilowatt hour, which is quite good. If you drive it gently, it'll do quite a bit more. So anyway, tell us about this compared with your mum's car then.
Well, it's quite different because, like, they're different colours.
Oh yeah,
Like,
colour.
this is blue, one's is white. So it feels like a bit weird in this car because it's new.
Oh yes, okay. Well, it's a year old. Just a year old, yeah. Ooh.
And Mum is way slower at driving.
Oh, is she? Is she a really slow driver, your mum? I
Yeah,
know
she gets scared easily, so she just goes slow.
I know she wore the clutch out, but this is like an automatic, so we don't have one of those. So, yeah. Now, what was the thing your mummy said to mention that this car has got that her car does not have?
Heated seat.
Heated seats. Yes, we've got heated seats.
But not at the back, only at the front.
That's right. And I think that's because battery cars, they don't want to heat the whole cabin, so to save energy, you just can heat the seats. They will heat the whole cabin, of course, but if you're trying to save energy, first of all, they'd prefer you to just heat the seats. But when it's plugged in to charge, lane assist came on there. When it's plugged in to charge, you can tell it remotely to warm the cabin. So then it's warming the cabin from the AC charge point rather than using its own battery. So we've got a car behind us now, but we can outpace most fuel cars on the back roads like this, even in this little E-Up. It's really quite nippy.
I do quite like electric cars because they're really fast.
They can be.
And that's my favourite thing.
That's your favourite what?
That's my favourite thing about electric cars.
Yeah, they can be quite nippy. They can be.
Yeah.
This one makes a sound of some kind from outside. I haven't heard it, but my son said he heard it, and it makes a bit of a strange warning sound so that you know. Yeah. Anyway, have you got anything else to say? Because I think people will probably have seen as much as they need to see of us driving round.
I'm not sure.
Is that a no?
No. That was a no.
It is difficult, isn't it, when we're trying to be serious on camera, you know, like a proper TV car review.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to pull up in a minute and we'll stop the recording. I think people, oops, I'll have to pull in here, hold on. People will have seen enough of us. Turn it round. It has quite a tight turning circle, but it's it's pretty good actually. It's pretty good. So we're in Strensel, if anybody knows it. Just about 3 or 4 miles from home. I'll just pull up here and we'll stop the recording. Right, I'll just pull up here. Ooh.
That car looks nice.
It's so quick. Right, you stay there. I'm just going to stop this recording. So
Okay.
the one at the back here. Make sure I don't turn that off as well.
It says remember your mobile.
So why did I buy an EV and why did I buy it now? Well, I've always been interested in new technology, and it seemed to me that sooner or later I would get an EV. I've got solar panels, I've got a home battery, I've got battery power tools, and I've got some battery garden tools. And batteries seem to have developed to the point where they're reliable. But I thought that when my current car got to a certain age, I'd just naturally progress onto an EV. But kind of two things have happened really. First of all, my current car's still really good after 10 years. It's only done less than 50,000 miles. I don't drive it very often, so it's not going to naturally expire. And the second thing is that EVs have not moved along as quickly as I thought they might. They're still extremely expensive. The range hasn't developed as quickly as I thought it would. But also I was very keen to have vehicle to grid. So that hasn't developed that quickly either. Partly because the standards have not emerged soon enough. So CHAdeMO, the Japanese standard, that's already got a built-in technology for bidirectional charging and export on a DC coupled basis, but most of the others have not developed, most of the other standards have not developed to that point yet. And also, if you're DC coupled, you need to have a great big wall inverter to convert your DC from your car into AC. And they're still very, very expensive, something like £8,000 to £10,000. So it's very experimental, not feasible yet. So faced with that, and faced with the fact that I've got quite a lot of miles on the clock myself, what do you do? And I'm quite interested, and I'm quite committed to Volkswagens. The last 2 cars I've had have been Volkswagens, and I like the brand. I've got nothing against Chinese EVs, but I would feel more comfortable buying a European car, that's all I will say. So I started to look at the Volkswagen EV range. Everything was too big, too expensive, too everything. And then I kind of alighted upon the E-Ups. And I thought, well, if you can't go big, why not go small? Now, I don't need a second car. I barely need a first car. I might go 2 weeks without driving my car, and we only have one car. My wife can drive, but she chooses not to drive. She is insured, she just doesn't. So, you know, I can barely justify more than half a car as it is. But I thought, well, what do I do? If I want to try an EV, let's go for something really small and relatively cheap. So that's the why did I buy an EV and why did I buy it now? Because, not to be too morbid, I'm going to run out of time, and that's why I got it now. You might think of this as a small car, but in my youth I spent a lot of time driving Austin and Morris Minis. I think I had one for about 6 years until the family got too big for it. Well, the Mini was 10 feet long and about 4'6" tall and about 4'6" wide. Well, 10 feet comes to there, so you can see how much longer this car is. It's also about 4 inches taller and about 6 inches wider. So it's not really a small car at all. Maybe it is by modern standards, but not by my standards, let's say. Right, lifting the bonnet, well, it's more like a flap, to be honest with you. There's some familiar bits and some unfamiliar bits. So you can see the, whatever it is, the control module there. These are the high voltage cables. It's a 400 volt system, more controllers, the low voltage battery. This bit I know. The windscreen washer over this side if it's on screen, the brakes, the power steering motors down the bottom there, air conditioning, that's the thin pipe, the fat pipe is over here. This I'm not sure, I've got to look that up in the manual. It's pressurized, it goes into the cabin, so maybe it's to do with the air conditioning, I don't know, I need to check it. Yeah, so not much to see here, but the up was a standard fuel car where they retrofitted the battery to make it an EV, which is a great attraction to me, and I'll explain why when we get into the cabin. I've found out that videoing in cars is very difficult because of the confined space. The lighting's terrible. I'll do my best. Just bear with me. So this car is packed with extras, as standard pretty much. If I just read them through quickly. Heated front screen, that's the Ford type with the elements within the screen itself. As we said, heated front seats, lane assist, multifunction steering wheel so I can control everything from the wheel, cruise control, auto lights on and off. The earlier ups, the cheaper ones, the more basic ones didn't have auto lights. It's got an eSIM within the car. It talks over the internet so you can control it from your phone in various ways. High level of trim. This model always 5 doors. The bumper styling is improved, and there's sort of a big LED C at the front, which is quite funky, and some blue strips on it. That's like detail, but anyway, it's got reversing sensors, and it's got the world's smallest reversing camera, DAB radio, links to the phone. So there's no infotainment system with a great big screen. You basically drive all that stuff from your phone, but the phone integrates over Bluetooth, so the buttons on the infotainment system control your phone. I'll show you the picture of that in a minute. It's got analog dials. That, when I made that comment about a fuel car retrofitted with a motor, the great thing is it's got analog dials. There's none of this silly big screens and what have you. It's just normal dials. I'll show you in a second or two. It's got regeneration, so that if you set it that way, you take your foot off the accelerator as it's braking, it'll brake through the motor and regenerate power, and it does that at 4 levels, and that's really good to use. It's got diamond cut alloy wheels, so the basic models just had steel wheels with a trim. And that, I think, essentially covers what's in the car. Let me show you the dashboard, and I think you'll see why I like it, I hope. This is handheld, so it might wobble, but this is what I mean about the analog dials. So this one is the amount of power that you're using. If they like you to keep in the blue, so that means 60% battery draw, power draw. obviously it goes up to 100%, but below 0 is green, and that's when it's regenerating. Standard dials here, but it says try to keep in the range 10 to 50, which is fine for this car. But this is what I love. This is the fuel gauge look. 3/4 battery full. Now moving across slowly, so I don't make you poorly. This is what I mean about the phone integrating with the system. So there, battery level 73%. I can press phone. There you go. It'll go to phone. But also, look, I can do it down here. So if I want the car information, I press that one, and I will just go up again slowly and show you. So now that's displaying the range, which is 102 miles. So as I press each of these buttons, I mean, maybe this is how it is in all modern cars, but this isn't helpful, is it? That's the battery, that's the maps. So there are no disappointments for me. I know that legacy car makers don't write very good apps. I wasn't expecting much, but that's fine, because like I said, I had no expectations of any of those apps being any good, but they've therefore proved to be better than I expected. Now, there's the lights, automatic, right? But look, it's got a key, a normal key. And it's just like starting a car. So if you turn this to the first position, your ignition's on. And if I want to make this thing come alive and drivable, I put my foot on the pedal, and hopefully I won't fluff this. I just turn that. The ping's on. Now that would drive. Now it's beeping at me because I've got the doors open. Electrical system, vehicle can still be driven, it says. What does that mean? I can still drive it with the doors open? Who knows? Do you remember these? This is what we call a handbrake, parking brake. And then it's got a knob a bit like an automatic. So park, reverse, neutral, D for drive, and then B is regen. So it's got 4 levels of regen. So when I'm in this position, well, it won't let me do it because the ignition's not on. When I'm in D, I can flick this left to right to change the level of regen, level 1 to level 3. But if I'm getting desperate for battery, which I never will, pull this stick down to here, pull it back basically, and it goes into B, which is full regen, and that's effectively level 4. And if you take your foot off the accelerator in that mode, it's like you're braking quite heavily, but it gives you the maximum regeneration. There's some funky little trim cup holder thingies here. This is the car charging port. At the top we've got AC, type 2. At the bottom we've got DC, CCS. The DC is limited to 50 kilowatts. The top one, AC, is limited to 3.6 kilowatts because that's the size of the inverter within the car. So there would be no point me getting one of these EV wall boxes because they may be 7 kilowatt, but the car will only accept 3.6 kilowatt charge rate. So that means the maximum that I can charge at is in range is about 14 miles per hour of range. That's not a problem for me because I'm a very light user. I haven't got a wall box. There wouldn't be any point getting one for me, I think. So I'm using what some people call the granny cable, and that plugs into a normal 13 amps wall socket in the house, in the garage, and the maximum charge rate is about 2.3 kilowatts. So I can add about 9 miles for every hour of charge. So, you know, what am I going to be topping up? Well, my journeys are very, very short. I'll more of that later. I can easily charge and top up this battery on a granny cable in the 7 hours of cheap electricity I get every night. Right, this is what they call the granny chargers. I don't know what's wrong with grannies, but anyway. So UK 13 amp plug at this end. I've got it on a box so you can see it. It's a genuine Volkswagen charging unit. It's got lots of cleverness in it with lots of lights on it to check things and then give warnings if you need to. You just unlock the car, put it in, and it will lock that in place. I think you've all seen that before. So now this is green, but it's flashing, so it tells you that it's charging. So when it's fully charged, it would be solid green. This won't pull out because the car locks it in. If I unlock the car, then I can pull it out. Well, you might know that I've got Give Energy Solar and a battery for the house. This is the Give Energy app. Now you can see that the panels are generating 985 watts because it's quite dull at the moment. The property's consuming 625 watts. The battery is charging at 396 watts. And if you believe it, we're exporting 7 watts to the grid. The car is not charging at the moment. Now if I set the car to charge, we should see this consumption jump up. I've retired to the workshop where there's less glare on this phone. So the car is now charging. The sun's giving us 2.45 kilowatts. The property, including the car, is drawing 3.09 kilowatts. The battery is discharging 1.4 kilowatts. And if you believe it, we're drawing 94 watts from the grid. These figures are kind of pretty accurate, but not absolute. Now, I wouldn't normally charge the car during the day. At night I can charge it for about 11p per kilowatt hour. In the day, drawing from the grid would be about 25p. But because we're largely, or at least, yes, we're largely charging it from the solar panels, well, all that's costing me is the export tariff, because I'm not exporting, because I'm charging the car instead. So that's 15p per kilowatt hour. So doing this in the day with the sun out, I'm trading about 25p per kilowatt hour if I drew from the grid, versus the loss of 15p per kilowatt hour I would have got for export. Now, of course, I wouldn't normally charge this during the day. I'm just playing about to understand what it's doing, really. So let's deal with one of the big elephants in the room, which is range anxiety. Now, I don't have any range anxiety at all, because I did my research and I know what the practical range of this car is, and it suits my lifestyle. So the battery has a useful capacity of 32 kilowatts, and you can work it out actually. If it's 4 miles per kilowatt hour, the practical range works out at about 125 miles. Now it says 160 miles in the book, but you can probably reason on 125 miles. If you drive it on a motorway in cold weather at speed, maybe 90 miles. But if you poodle around town with lots of regen and so on, you might even get as high as 190 miles. Now, I rarely drive, probably 2 or 3 times a week. Nearly all my journeys are very short. So a 10-mile round trip would be quite long for me. What am I doing? So I'm going to see friends, I'm going into town, I'm picking up the grandchildren from school. They're all very short journeys, and it was another motivation to get an EV, because on my big diesel, which is a Tiguan 2014, honestly, it doesn't even warm up on those distances. I'm not so bothered about, the pollution, although it is a concern. It's more that the thing just never even warms up, and then I'll get the DPF will be clogged up, and then I'll get problems. So much better for me to have a car like this for the very short journeys, and then when I'm getting stuff, bags of sand or something from the DIY store, or I've got to go on holiday some distance, whatever, a long distance, I'll just use the other car because I'm fortunate that I can do that. But I've made that policy decision to do that. Okay, so I'm adding 5% to the battery if I'm charging it up, 10% to the battery. Of course, if I do go into town and I need to charge it up DC, I'm paying for the electricity, but it's free parking otherwise. So for me, I could be charging this car once every couple of weeks, perhaps not even that. So as I said before, you can control settings and set charging times from within the car on your phone over Bluetooth locally, or you can do it over the internet using the Volkswagen app. So that's what I see. Now, it tells me that I've got a range of 102 miles, 73% charged. So I can sit in a cafe somewhere while the car is charging, and I'll say, I'm just going to have my coffee until I'm 80% charged. I can see all that on here. It gives me driving data. So my last journey, yesterday it was 11 miles, 4.2 miles per kilowatt hour. and all of that stuff. It's not a fantastic app because Volkswagen are not great at writing apps, but it's not bad. If I just put it in front of my face, you get the idea, right? It's still quite useful. Well, now I'm going to talk money, so I suppose I should give you a couple of conversion rates to start with. When I looked in the paper this morning, £1 was $1.32 US, and it was €1.18. I paid £17,000 for that car. I always buy my cars cash. I keep them like forever. So my current car I've had 9 years. I tend to buy them typically 1 to 3 years old. So my current car 9 years, the one before that I had 10 years. The only car I ever bought new was a Mitsubishi Space Wagon, 7-seater when the kids were young, and we had that for 23 years. It was our one and only car for 15 of those 23 years. So I'm not a short-term investor when it comes to cars. £17,000 sounds like a lot, but it's not a lot for an EV. That car, talking about the E-Up now, that's had a list price of £24,000, where a standard E-Up would cost you about £14,000 and upwards. But with the government grant on EVs, you could have probably got one for £20,000 when you net off the grant. Now VW have stopped making those cars, you can't order them, and there's quite a lot which you can find on pre-order. Now I made a policy decision to buy from Volkswagen as an approved used car because there are just so many benefits that come with that. You can look it up for yourself, I won't say what they all are. And these pre-registered cars, you could buy one of those and eat up for £17,000. The problem for me is that they're all down in the southeast and I'm in the north of the UK. So that means like 200 miles away. So I did see several in the south. I approached a London dealer, and for £17,000 I could have got essentially a new car, although it would be technically second-hand, with 50 miles on it. Great. So why didn't I buy it? Well, I didn't buy it because they quoted me £835 delivery, £240 admin charge. There was no granny cable, which I actually got for free from the dealer I bought from. That's £250. So when you added it all up, I would have been paying about £500 more for a car, which granted was effectively brand new. I'd have 14 days right of return because it would have been distance selling, but I'd have had to get the car back to that dealer even if I look for a sensible price for shipping, for getting it shifted. It's still going to be like £400, and I decided to go with a car that I could go and see, drive, talk to a real person, and so I got this one, 1 year old, 3,600 miles. It had been a dealer manager car stroke demonstrator car, so it was in excellent condition. It'd been properly looked after from the beginning, so that was the choice I made. Now the car comes with an 8-year battery warranty. I think 70% capacity guaranteed for 8 years, so I've lost 1 year's warranty, but my experience is these batteries will either completely fail or they'll actually hold their capacity much longer. You know, at this stage, maybe not in the early years of EVs, but now. And my home battery, for example, which is the same technology essentially, is guaranteed for 12 years, unlimited cycles, full depth of charge, 0 to 100%. So that's where the batteries are getting to now. But I'm taking the risk. If the car conks out 8 years from now, if I'm still around even, so be it. So be it. I've just made that decision, right? I'm just going to live with that decision. Another one to talk about is insurance. Now you'll read that EV insurance prices are going through the roof. Well, they are for some EVs, Tesla's in particular, because of the way Tesla operates its market. My cheapest quote, insurance on that car, obviously fully comprehensive, EV insurance, was £210 for the year. Now, as it turned out, I didn't go for that because I didn't want to pay a £600 excess, and I already insure my main car with a particular company and I wanted a 2-car discount. So I went to them, I paid a little bit more. I think I settled on about £250, something like that. It's not out of the way, and that insurance includes free recovery if I run out of charge. And for no excess, nothing to pay ever, no penalty, they'll take me to the nearest charger to charge up. So you can't do much better than that. It doesn't feel expensive to me. I did do a bit of work on the business case and the payback period. Now my daughter's Up would cost £14,000 now, that's a 1 litre petrol. The E-Up, if you could buy it today with the government grant, would be about £20,000, so that's £6,000 difference. And taking into account the difference in servicing costs, which are much lower with the E-Up and fuel, I think the payback period would be about 7 years, where the two would about break even, something like that. But EVs are going to come down still further in price. The technology will just drive it that way. And eventually I'm sure that an EV will cost about the same as a standard car. They might not last as long, we all know that. But I think that's where it's going anyway. So we're winding up now. I have to say, it's the nicest, funnest car I've driven in years and years and years. I absolutely love it, and I'm so sorry that Volkswagen have discontinued them. You can't order them now. I love the simplicity of it, etc., and it suits me perfectly. But before we finally close, I just want to do the checklist to make sure I've got everything I need. So, first of all, spontaneous combustion. I did talk to them about that. Unfortunately, they can't guarantee it. It might happen in 1,000 years, but I couldn't get them to commit to it. Range anxiety. No. Massive depreciation. Well, it is more expensive than a standard fuel car. Absolutely get it. But for the length of time I'm going to keep it, if I do get hit with depreciation, it's £17,000, not 57 or 67 or £77,000. Sorry about that bit of teasing, I just couldn't resist it. I've done quite a few miles in the car now, 50-mile journeys around town, and I'm finding that the battery is holding up pretty well in terms of charge. Around town the other evening, 3 people in the car, it was raining, wipers on, lights on, and we got 4.4 miles per kilowatt hour, which is an equivalent range of 140 miles. Okay, it wasn't freezing cold, and we didn't have the heaters on, so, you know. But I'm still quite happy with that. It's about what I expected. I'm also not concerned about the length of the life of the battery. They're pretty good these days in cars. What I am a bit more concerned about is proving that I can't charge this car faster than 3.7 kilowatts on a single phase 7.4 kilowatt charger, and it's to do with the design of the car and the charging point. And this car has 2 out of 3 phases in the plug, and each phase seems to have a 16 amp charger on it. So if we were on a 3-phase supply, yes, we could then charge at 7.4 kilowatts. Now, a lot of domestic properties in Europe, Germany and many others, they commonly have 3-phase supplies, but in the UK it's very rare to find a 3-phase supply in a domestic home. So we're kind of stuck really with only being able to charge up to, what did I say, 7.4 kilowatts on a 3-phase charger. So if you go to a charging point and it says 22 kilowatt charger, we'll only get 7.4, and on a domestic wall charger we'll only get 3.7 maximum. The other things that concern me a little bit, as I said, Volkswagen aren't brilliant at writing apps, and when I read the literature it says that this car and many other Volkswagen cars are on the internet through a technology they call CarNet. Now CarNet, if you believe what you read, because information's limited, CarNet is actually operating on the 3G mobile network. Now the 3G mobile network is being turned off in this country, and I think the last operator to discontinue 3G will be O2 next year, 2025. So does that mean that this car will no longer communicate over the internet? And not only this car, many other Volkswagens. I think the Touareg, right up to the 2024 model, claims to be on CarNet. So would they have really been selling cars, you know, which were due to lose their communication within the space of a year? Would they? I don't know. And then, okay, I could still control the car with the other app, an app called Miles and More. And when I say control, and this is getting too long, I'm sorry. When I say control, I mean things like setting charging levels and things like that. If they discontinue that app, I'm stuck. So, you know, they're not making the car now. It's quite unique in that you control everything from your mobile phone as opposed to a display. And if they discontinue the app, if it disappears off App Store or whatever the iPhone equivalent is, I'm going to lose some functions. So we'll see, won't we? See, I mean, it's not enough for me to hand the car back. I could do it, and within the 14 days I probably could ask for my money back. Maybe. Being a Volkswagen approved used car, I get certain rights. Now I'll keep the car, I love the car, but they are queries for the future. Now there's some annoying things that it does, but I've learnt that I can control those with a scan tool. So my son's got a scan tool. So things like the air conditioning always resets to 22 degrees. You can, with the scan tool, you can instruct it to remember the last setting. And there's a few others without going into too much detail. So I will be doing some of those tweaks. I've not given up on 7.4 kilowatt charging. I don't know if it would be feasible to join two phases together. You know, in other words, put the same phase input, single phase input onto the two phases on the plug. I don't know. That sounds pretty risky to me, but I haven't given up on those things. Anyway, this really has got long, I'm sorry. If people are particularly interested in this car and want any follow-ups, let me know. It'll probably be for a limited audience, I suppose, but you know, further experience can be posted. Thanks for watching.